I'm Dawn Montefusco, and this is Write From Your Heart, how to unleash your creativity, share your message, and leave a lasting legacy. And today I have an awesome guest, Cindi Maciolek. Cindi has been writing since she was 4 years old. Born and raised in Detroit, Michigan, and MSU Spartan for life, go green. She worked in high-tech marketing and public relations in Silicon Valley and currently resides in Las Vegas, Nevada. Cindi writes both fiction and nonfiction, spanning novels, business books, memoir, children's books, poetry, songs, and film. She's written articles for the Robb Report, Delta Sky, and Luxury Las Vegas magazines covering art and lifestyle topics. Cindi's first novel series, the Diana Diary series, follows the book's heroine, Diana Mackenzie, as she finds love and marriage and a globe-trotting career, only to be beset by the economy, divorce, and the challenges of trying to make it on her own in a new town, Las Vegas. It's the story of life that many can identify with. Aunt Cindi Presents is a collection of sage advice for fulfilled lives focused on inspiring entrepreneurs. This series includes How to Screw Up a Good Idea, Tame Those Pesky Details, and the upcoming Finding Success Through Friendship, along with several other smaller focused titles. Diva Teal, Reflections of a Bird's Companion, is a loving tribute to Cindi's feathered friend. Through the book, she reaches out to bird and animal lovers about the loving place pets have in our lives and the lessons they teach us. Her children's books include Icarus the Iguana, Who Am I Pink Edition and Who Am I Blue Edition, and more to come. And her poetry books that were published include A Healing Heart, 5-minute inspirations for those who grieve, and Java Gems, 5-minute inspirations for busy people. Hi, Cindi. That's so fun to read.
Fun. Thanks.
Good to see you. So tell us about any new projects or what's going on these days.
When people ask me what projects I'm working on, it's always so hard to narrow it down because it may differ by the day. But two big things I'm working on are novels. I'm trying to complete the 3rd book in the Diana Diary series, and that kind of completes that initial story arc. And then an independent novel, a standalone novel with completely different characters.
Cool. Wow. When did you know that you first wanted to write? Because this is you're an amazing, you have such an array. I got to ask, like, what was the story?
I don't know that I consciously knew I was a writer at any given point. When I was a little kid, I have a brother who's 2 years older than I am, and he would come home from school and I would make him teach me how to write letters and words and stuff. And I would have these things going through my head that I wanted to write down. And somewhere in a box in the garage, I have a paper with orange crayon of, my first writing, which I should probably frame. But it just kind of grew from there. I was just always obsessed. I was in my room and I was writing. And I don't know that I consciously, again, decided to be a writer, but I just am.
Have you ever gone through like even if it was very short, have you ever gone through a writing slump?
I wouldn't call it a slump, but I have gone through periods of time where I don't write.
Okay.
And that's because I'm working on other projects.
Say that again. I really love your language there. You wouldn't call it a slump. And by the way, it's the first time I ever used that term ever. So that's I usually say things really nicely, like, do you ever feel blocked or whatever? And I just went for the slump because I, and I'm like, that's how I feel sometimes. I get this, sometimes I just feel like, oh my God, now I know why I don't feel good. I haven't been writing.
Well, I guess I'm working on so many different things that, like some people feel that they get writer's block. And to me, there's so many ways to get past that. And one of my ways is if this project isn't working, I'll work on that.
Oh, cool.
It's just as easy as that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do go through periods of time because I'm working on, business stuff or, transferring websites to new servers and stuff like that. And it's like, my brain can't deal with the writing at that moment.
Life of a solopreneur. I totally understand.
Yeah.
So you really embrace the creative world. I mean, you really embrace it. like had to get over any hurdles shifting genres? I'm just curious.
Well, when I get an idea, I feel it tells me how it wants to manifest.
Ooh, I like this.
So it might be a song, might be a poem, might be a children's book, might be a business book, might be an online course, might be a novel, might be a short film script. It kind of tells me when I get the idea where it's going. So I kind of try to stay open to that inspiration and let it guide me. And I don't think I've ever like started down one path and said, oh, I shouldn't go that way. There are occasions where I've debated between doing something as a novel versus a feature film script. But, generally, whatever my initial inspiration is wins out.
That's unique, though, don't you think? I mean, I really don't meet many people that tackle all the genres. And I mean, you really do. I mean, from children's books to poetry to nonfiction and like entrepreneurial self-help books to fiction. I mean,
I call it unique. I call it normal.
I love it.
I am. This is who I've been all my life.
I love it. I really feel that there are more people like that, honestly. I get when clients call me and they're stuck, people usually I work with women over 40, men over 40. I have a lot of women right now. And so I was thinking of doing this, or I was thinking of doing that. I'm like, well, let's try it out. Let's one at a time. Let's not chase a shiny object. How would you think that some people do chase shiny objects without just sticking it out? Like, do you tend to finish what you start, or do you work on different things at the same time? And finish
I think we're all guilty of shiny objects. If you don't admit to it, then something's wrong. I mean, it's just human nature. And like, sometimes it's the squeaky wheel. Boy, I can't talk. Squeaky wheel gets the grease. So whatever is just like beating at me to be finished, that's what I work on. I'm never only working on one project at a time. I'm always working on multiple projects. Take, for example, my children's books. It takes a long time to get those illustrations done.
Oh, wow.
So it has to be written before you can begin the illustrations. And then you have to define everything, what each illustration is going to be. And then, once you've done that and you've engaged the illustrator, then you can work on something else. So that's something you can do at the same time as you're doing something else, because you're not going to sit around and twiddle your thumbs and say, okay, I'm going to sit here for 3 months and do nothing because I'm waiting for those illustrations. It's like, oh, good, I have 3 months. I can work on something else.
That's awesome. What made you want to write children's books? I love that you wrote children's books, especially Icarus the Iguana. Like, what inspired you?
There were 2 incidents in particular. Icarus, one of the gals that I worked with a long time ago had an iguana and a baby. And she couldn't believe that there were no iguana books. And she wanted to be able to read an iguana book to her child. And I said, well, I can't draw, and trust me, you say I embrace the creative world, I can write, but do not ask me to draw. But I said I could write something. And so I just took off and wrote Icarus the Iguana. And so it was more of a poem, but it really was fashioned to be a children's book.
Wow.
And then there's a series that will be coming out based on a little Shih Tzu. And it's based on my niece's dog. So the dog just had such a life. just like my bird, I'm going to be doing a series on my bird. I think I have 27 more books in the children's realm that I want.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
What about the Auntie Cindi Presents? I adore how to screw up a good idea. Tell us a little more about how you were inspired for that one.
Okay, I've been called Auntie Cindi since I was 8 years old.
Oh, wow.
And it has been used at work. When I worked in corporate in Silicon Valley, there were other Cindys on staff. And at one time, my niece came and worked over the summer for the company. So sometimes they lovingly called me Auntie Cindi, sometimes not, but it was just kind of a name that stuck. And, I answered to it very readily. So I thought I would create kind of this persona of, wouldn't it be great if you had someone like an older, more successful aunt who'd gone through all these things in business and is there to guide you.
Mm-hmm.
And so I created an avatar and everything. And so it's kind of its own brand. And so a lot of my instructional stuff is being fed through Auntie Cindi. But how to screw up a good idea? I consulted with a lot of Silicon Valley startups, and I don't care how much money you threw at a problem, it didn't matter. There are always consistent issues that I would find and that I'm still finding with people who are, working in small business, and they wonder, why am I failing? Why am I failing? It's like, okay, check out the book and see if any of those ring true.
When did you, so you were, tell us the story. You had a position in Silicon Valley and you traveled the world.
Yes.
And then when did you decide to go full-time writing?
I write, but I also, I'm going to do other things. I consult, I'm working on online courses and stuff. To me, writing is just part of everything.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I can't say that I sit at home and I work on novels 12 hours a day. I mean, I have met writers who do that. Mm-hmm. And, they're very successful writers and that's what they do, but that's not what I do. I just do a lot of different things. So
I love this. There's a lot of people watching right now that do a lot of different things. And
they should keep doing a lot of different things.
Yes, agreed. There's a great book by Barbara Sher. It's called Refuse to Choose. And she talks all about this Renaissance woman, Renaissance man era that we're in again, where we do so many different things. How often do you write then? Like if you were to give us, we always have that question. We love to ask writers, like, what's your process? Like, do you just write whenever you want? Do you have a very specific time of day? What's that like?
I have no particular routine.
Cool. I like this.
I don't know. Some people find it scary. Again, this is just normal to me. So let's start at the beginning of trying to define, let's say we're working on a book. Mm-hmm. I don't do outlines. Mm-hmm. I typically write like the first 2 chapters and then I write the end.
Oh, cool.
Then I let my characters kind of run amok during the book. Mm-hmm. I have some control over them, but I let them tell me their story and I'm just kind of there recording it. I like to write at night. I'm a night owl. I've been known to go to bed at 7 or 8 in the morning on a regular basis. Mm. With the sun going down earlier, I'm trying to shift that schedule a little bit, but it's so quiet at that time. There's no traffic. There's no leaf blowers. There's no trash pickup. It's just quiet and I can focus on what I want to do. I tend to write a lot in my head prior to putting it down on paper. So when I do write and I'm sitting at the keyboard, I tend to write pretty fast. And that's just because it's already worked out in my head.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. What about living in Las Vegas? I got to ask, do you get a lot of material?
Surprisingly, yes. But by the same token, Las Vegas is a wonderful community.
Yeah, I've heard great things.
It's a big town, but it's a small town. You're never more than 2 or 3 degrees of separation from anybody. And even though there's over 2 million people in the area, it's a very small town feel. I don't tend to hang out on the strip. Most locals don't.
Mm-hmm. Totally.
So.
No, that's fun.
So like my character, so like the Diana Diary series, the character lives in Vegas, but isn't consumed by Vegas.
Cool. I love it. So what I love about what you're doing is I love hearing how you pull from your real life and you write it into something. You know,
Well, I didn't mean to cut you off.
no.
I think that people need to be inspired by their lives. Okay, I
Mm,
think that's a lot of reason why people want to write.
yes.
They experience something, or a friend experienced something, and they didn't like the way it turned out, or something. They want. When you're a writer, you're in control of everything, the situations, the characters, everything, and it can be very cathartic.
Mm-hmm.
It can also be a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
I've been looking at possibly a long time ago. I wrote a novel that I've never done anything with, and I've been looking at converting that maybe even to a psychological thriller or horror,
Wow.
which is something I've never written before. But I just, you get a little more daring the more you write,
Yes, yes.
and you just kind of want to tell a story. You want to express things. You want to give a voice to something,
Mm-hmm.
and so look around and see what inspires you.
I love that. I love that. Why do you think it is that some people are afraid later in life? This is what I get, like, past their 40s, they feel that it's too late. I get a lot of, well, should I be writing now? And I'm like, you can be 100 years old and write. Like, it doesn't, there's no age limit to writing.
What are you gonna wait for if you're over 40?
They just are afraid. They're afraid to put, there's times when they wonder, really, I think the mantras that I get and the people who get the most stuck is they're too looking for the result. They're already way out beyond the book that hasn't been written. They've started it. It's usually pretty good. And their consciousness is going beyond the present moment of writing. Is there, can you speak to that in some of the writers, give them any hints, or like, it's you're not a real writer, I think, isn't writing so that they're writing because they love to write.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
I don't know that I play with the idea of, this book can become a film, or a million bookseller or whatever. But I think when you're over 40, you are freer to express yourself.
Mm-hmm.
I think people do express themselves a lot more freely when they're over 40.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're going to be writing, what a great time to do it.
Yes.
But you still have to go through the process of completing the project.
Mm-hmm.
And you just got to take it step by step. You can't look way beyond. I mean, what are you looking for?
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand. It's like you've got to have the book.
Yeah, exactly. I used to say, someone, I was doing a consult and she wanted to know, she hadn't written anything yet, or she'd been writing bunches, but unorganized, didn't know what she was doing. And she wanted to hire me. She says, but I want to know what's going to happen. And I was like, wait, you haven't written the book yet. Like I said, so I say, that's like sitting in a car in the parking lot and saying, I want to see the top of the mountain, but I'm not going to go on the hike.
Yeah.
And part of the journey, the hike is the fun part, So yeah, I love that. I love that you bring it right back down. Like, what are you doing? Like, do it now. You've got right now.
Well, and boy, it's not just the writing, it's the editing. Like, I self-edit. And so by the time I finish my book, not only have I written it, but I have read it 20 or 30 times to edit it. Yeah. And I edit as I write also. So sometimes, I say, I don't know what I want to write next. I feel kind of stuck. What's this next chapter going to be? I go back to the beginning of the book and I read from the beginning. I start editing and then it starts flowing again. So, so you spend a lot of time with your project and months, years, however long it's going to be until it's comfortable, and you may edit, you may not. I personally love to edit my own writing. I have a very different kind of way of expressing things. I do a lot of staccato sentences and words that you have to look up in the dictionary. Not thoroughly, but I intersperse them. And, I haven't found an editor I like to work with. So I do a lot of self-edit.
Yeah, yeah. I think a lot of people, well, I think it's fun to self-edit a bit, especially when, like you said, you go back to the beginning and then you read it again and you're like, oh, you might even get a new flash.
Right,
Something
right.
comes. That's a really fun way. I really enjoy that process. You also write poetry. Now, I'm a poet myself. I have a love for poetry. I also feel rather that poetry can be very healing. There's not a lot of rules. You can make, we get poetic license. We get to do what we want. What, what, tell us a little bit about the gifts poetry has given you that's different than books, regular books.
Well, to me, there's two different aspects of poetry. There's the rhymey stuff that I do like for children's books or for song lyrics. And then like a lot of the stuff that's in my two books, Java Gems and A Healing Heart, much of that I wrote, or I was just kind of inspired. Like Java Gems, a lot of those were sitting on a rock in Del Mar by the ocean. Wow. And I literally just had a pen and paper and I just wrote. And I didn't read anything until I got back to my hotel room.
Wow.
And I went, oh, some stuff's good.
Yeah, totally.
But A Healing Heart, a lot of those poems were inspired when my dad passed away. And then my mom passed away. And I didn't really find anything available that kind of covered that process that wasn't, scientific or heavily spiritual or whatever. So I wanted to express something that kind of went through the stages of grieving without being heavy. But I don't, sometimes people ask me questions. It's just so hard for me to express things because I just do it. It just kind of comes to me and I do it.
Well, the poetry I love though, because I really feel there's a freedom in poetry that's a little bit different. It's just a little bit different than when I'm writing prose or when I'm writing, definitely when I'm not. Nonfiction is very different from poetry as far as I'm concerned. You can write it poetically, that's different. But having the freedom to write poetry, I find that like it's a great exercise. Like it's just in and of itself like a great exercise. And I think more people should be doing it personally. I think of all realms. I don't think just writers should be writing poetry. I think business people should be writing poetry. Artists, I know a lot of artists write poetry, but I mean, athletes should write poetry. Like I think that it's got this avenue for deeper, not just deeper healing, but it's just free. There's a freedom in poetry, even with rhyming. I mean, rhyming gives you a container, but there's still a lot of freedom there.
Right.
I know you just do it, but I'm just curious what the difference, that you might speak to people. Why did you include poetry in your array of writing?
Because I write it?
Yeah, because it just came. Because you wanted to. It's a basic.
Yes, I wanted to, and I really like the poetry that I've written, and I wanted to share that. I just felt that these were emotions that needed to be expressed, and sometimes people have trouble expressing themselves, and that is kind of the fun of poetry. Is it's a short form, so it's not as daunting as writing a 100,000 word novel. It's something that you can grasp and in very few words, 20 words, 50 words or whatever, you can tell a story. And there's also kind of a twist to that. It's just like I've been really into film lately also, and so I hadn't really thought about writing short films. I was always thinking feature films or sitcoms or whatever. And all of a sudden I'm obsessed with shorts because it's so fascinating to be able to tell a story in such a short period of time. And to me, I don't feel like I should tell anyone how to write this. Okay. I feel I should be able to help people write what they want to write.
I like that.
Because like telling someone to write poetry and they're not drawn to that at all. They don't resonate with that at all. To me, it's like, then don't write poetry.
No,
What do you want to
totally.
write? You
I
want to
find
write
I
a
have a lot
novel?
of
Then let's work
closet
on a novel.
I have a lot of closet poets. I have a lot of people who say, well, if I could write what I wanted to write, I get that a lot. If I could write what I wanted to write, I would write fill in the blank, children's books, poetry. I'd write a story about my grandmother, but I think I should write about, and they have their, whether it's someone's told them they're really good at something, whether it's a business adventure that they're doing. And I really try my best to get people out of the should
Yes.
and into the what they want to write. And I really believe that a lot of people have forgotten what they want to write because they get so hypnotized by their shoulds.
Yes.
How do you deal with what would you say to someone that's shoulding all over themselves?
Well, since you put it that way, I have some shoulds. There are some projects that I'm like, I should do this. No one else in the family or no one else I know is going to do this. I should do a family history kind of thing. I should do a family recipe. I should do this. I should do that. Yes, I have those books too. I'm no different. I think sharing too early about what you want to do with others can be a problem. There's writers groups where it's as if people can't write unless they get somebody else's approval. So they'll write 10 pages and they'll go to a meeting and they'll read those 10 pages and, this person is this comment and this person is that comment and 3 people said it was good. So then they suddenly feel confident they can go write the next 10 pages. And they come to the next meeting with the next 10 pages. And it's like they can't progress without someone else's approval. And I think that you need to just do it. Don't share it.
Yeah.
I highly recommend not sharing. Some people are obsessed with sharing. I really don't share. Until after I've edited it 20 times.
Yeah.
Because I don't want other people to influence what I want to write. I have something to say. I want to say it my way. I have a voice. And I don't want others to influence me.
That is great advice, actually. That's powerful. That's powerful. You have a poem that I'd said pick a poem to read. Would you mind reading it?
I can. Like the sun has gone down and I've got very little light, but we're going to do this. Okay, so this is from my book, Java Gems, 5-Minute Inspirations for Busy People. And the way this book is set up is by 10 different topics, from self-confidence, strength, goals and path, creativity, self-love. And this one is in creativity. And I thought it was really appropriate to the topic for the series. Like a magnet, ideas are drawn to me. Where the force is strong, they latch on, while others fall to the ground, only to be swept away in the next gust. They find someone to cling to or return again, sometime, somewhere.
That's lovely. That reminds me of in the book Big Magic, Elizabeth Gilbert was talking about how if you don't catch the idea, it'll keep going.
Yes.
And I could see them all on the floor, like some got caught, some didn't, and now they're like scurrying, looking for the next.
Well, and it also kind of talks about the concept of more than one person can have the same idea.
Yes. Oh, that's true. That's awesome. That's right.
Right. But some people grasp it in one way, some people grasp it another way, and others just ignore it totally. So it doesn't mean you can't have the same idea as someone else. You're just going to express it differently.
That is so true. That is so true. Thanks for saying that. I want the audience to really hear that. That the way a message, so I used to say, like, the message doesn't always change, but the messengers do.
Yes.
And that's the best part. Yes. Cindi, you are a gem. You're so wonderful. I love all that you do and all that you bring to the world. You have a free gift for us too.
I have a free gift. It's called the Confident Writer Workbook. And I created it specifically for the series. So only the people who have attended the series will have access to it. And it, sometimes when you begin writing, you're a little confused. You don't know where to start. And I think by defining the project, not in terms of an outline, but in terms of what it is and what you want to say and who it's for, and who else is saying something similar and how you differ. Because I think it's important to understand how you differ. But walking through these steps will help you to feel more confident in what you're writing and feel a lot stronger in expressing yourself.
I love.
So, and I give an example in the workbook of one of my potential projects, so that it's easy for readers to understand.
Thank you so much. That's so exciting. Well,
I'm
you're
excited.
this is so exciting. Well, thank you, thank you, thank you. And I hope you have a wonderful evening. What's the temperature like there?
It's windy and about mid-70s, so parka weather.
Oh, we're in the low 60s, a little cold now.
Yeah.
Well,
All right, thanks, Dawn. This was wonderful. I really appreciate it.
Oh yeah, well, we'll be in touch for sure. Thanks so much, Cindi.
Hey, thanks. Bye.
Bye.